I'm Mike Sherman, and this is a NewsOK Varsity Update. Until this morning, Trey Johnson of Hugo was just one of about 450 to 500 high school basketball players across the state competing for a state championship. And then Thursday night in Yukon happened. Trey, by now a lot of people across the country and in Oklahoma know, is the player from Hugo who made the unfortunate basket in the other team's goal. That basket led to Millwood beating Hugo in the 3A state championship first round game at Yukon. Here to talk about that basket, the aftermath, and all that went down in that game is the Oklahoman's Anthony Slater. Anthony, you were in Yukon last night when all this went down. 2.9 seconds. Can you sort of put us there and reset what you were expecting and then what happened?
Well, at that point, the game almost felt over. It was a very dramatic game. But it was 37-36, and Hugo had actually just stolen an inbound. I got a jump ball, got possession. Their crowd was going, they're pretty rowdy. You felt like the game was over. You just needed a quick inbound. They got the quick inbound, and then, I mean, as many people have heard, he just kind of by himself just went up for a layup on his own hoop in a moment of confusion, and the stands were, I mean, it was pretty quiet. Jim, for a little while, for probably 2 seconds, trying to figure out that, yes, he did just score in his own hoop. And then it was kind of the opposite effect of the Hugo crowd goes silent and the Millwood crowd goes wild.
Anthony, that play looked well designed, just the wrong direction. Hugo's lined up in a straight line. You see these plays a lot of times at the end of games. Coach Darnell Shanklin, did he talk at all about what was supposed to happen on that play?
Not as much about the design, but I mean, it was designed to get the kid open, which it did well. I think he may have designed it to go towards his basket because maybe they're not looking at for Hugo to go that way. Obviously, he wasn't expecting a shot. They didn't need a shot to win. They're up one, but it's an honest mistake, an unfortunate one, and it was, I mean, you saw the aftermath.
Anthony, to that point of the game, tell us about how Trey Johnson had played and his impact on the game.
The box score doesn't, he had 4 points for his team up to that point, but I mean, it was a defensive battle. I mean, as you can see, the final score is 37-36. So 4 points exponentially means a lot more than it sounds. He had just made a big shot probably a minute earlier they were down up until the fourth quarter. They had a kind of wild comeback, and he was part of it, made a big shot, and he was part of their defensive effort that held Millwood under about 30% shooting, and hard player, hard-nosed, hustles all the time, and you feel bad for him, and you could tell his teammates, the coaches, they felt bad for him after the game.
Of course, the aftermath of this, there's a lot of outpouring of empathy for him. We've learned today, you talked about him, he's a junior. He's a star running back at Hugo, a three-sport standout, and an honor student. There's a lot of folks sort of wondering and worrying about him. You saw him after the game. We now know that he and his family left Oklahoma City, did not stay here in a hotel with the team, went back to Hugo. What was his disposition after the game, and were people consoling him?
Yeah, he needed to be consoled. He realized it probably a couple seconds after what he had done. His teammates, in a pretty good show of sportsmanship, they didn't run to him or start yelling at him or anything. The coaches kind of had to hug him. They went back to the locker room. It was a long wait until the team emerged from the locker room, as you can expect. And he came out. He was in tears, as you'd expect. And everyone seemed to be consoling him, even the fans of their team. Everyone seemed to treat it right, knowing that it was a pretty unfortunate error.
Millwood, of course, is in an unusual position. Happy to win. Maybe given some pause about how it went down. What was the reaction we know the reaction from the Millwood crowd, but how about the players and coaches?
I mean, it was, like you said, it's not an ideal way to win. Many people will call it lucky, but they seemed like they were taking it I mean, they rushed the floor. They were running around. The coach afterward, he expressed his sorrow for the kid, but he's like, you know what, it was a bad game for us, but we'll take the win, and they'll move on. And it's kind of new life. I wouldn't say I was surprised at how they reacted, but I mean, they definitely they'll take the win as they can get it. It seemed like.
Anthony, any particular challenges about covering this story, interviewing people, talking to them about it? Seemed like in a lot of ways, because it's a high school kid involved in this situation, it adds some sort of degree of difficulty in describing it.
It was, I mean, because you don't want to put the kid down at all. You don't want to, add to what I'm sure he's feeling today. I'm sure he's hurting more than any fan or person reacting to it. So I was originally hoping to maybe interview the kid, but I mean, when you saw the kind of his emotions after the game, it was best to kind of stay away and let him do it. So there was some challenges to it, but I think it was covered how it needed to.
Right, and from our part at the Oklahoman, we had lots of great photos from the whole game from Brian Terry, your story, of course, but we made a conscious decision not to put on the cover of the Oklahoman the picture of the deciding play. It's in the paper. It's on an inside page with the jump from your story, but it seemed to us that we were in some ways maybe spotlighting his mistake rather than Millwood's win. And there were many plays, of course, that led up to that game. We feel good about that decision. Also, it's been interesting to watch on NewsOK some of the comments and some of the calls and connections we've made throughout this day. A lot of people with an outpouring of empathy for Trey Johnson. This will be an interesting story to watch. Anthony, thanks for your comments. Thanks for your coverage of this. And you can stay with this story on Trey Johnson and Hugo. Today, Jenny Carlson will be filing a column to NewsOK later today, and you can read it in Saturday's editions of the Oklahoman.